Well, first of all, that's a bit of a mouthful, and I apologise, Yvonne. So, look, how close is he? The fact is, we've seen China put up a space station in 2 decades. We have seen billionaires go up in the world's biggest willy waving contest in the last year alone. We've got Blue Origin teaming up with Boeing. We've got Sierra Space. We've got a whole bunch of people throwing money at this. And launching in the next 5 years to 10 years by the end of 2020s, it's a huge effort. And a few things have to go right, and they have to be to schedule in order to achieve that. You've got Boeing. They've been working on their Starliner spacecraft. I've got my own stutters today, designed for human transport. And Sierra Space have a program called Dream Chaser, it's a winged space plane. It's going to do the cargo, and that is scheduled to start cargo flights to the ISS next year. You're also looking at Blue Origin's rocket, which is called New Glenn, and that's actually going to be doing all of the launching, and that hasn't even really, so to speak, got off the ground yet, even though we've seen, Blue Origin's New Shepherds go. So, look, it's a huge effort, but judging by everything else, it could be possible. I mean, we're just really starting to enter that amazing exponential growth and development in this commercial space area, so I wouldn't be surprised.
We really have. I've seen so many strides being taken, massive strides just this year alone. So I don't know. I guess we will wait to watch this space. But do you think this is to rival the International Space Station? What's its main purpose, this new one?
So that's a really good point as well. It's yes and no, okay? Rival is probably the key word here. NASA are actively engaging people to try to find replacements for the ISS. Now, the ISS has had permission to operate until 2024, with funding extension taking it to 2028. It's old. It's 2 years old. It's costing NASA, between $3 and $4 billion per year just to operate. And of course, the Russians are taking up the US astronauts and the other astronauts up there at the moment, and they're paying for that as well. So eventually NASA actually wants to send its astronauts to these stations that they've sort of had a hand in. So they're kind of encouraging this commercialisation, this making of space stations. And in fact, Blue Origin and partners are not the first people to come out and say, this is what we want to do, we want to build it. And NASA have announced these initiatives called the Commercial Low Earth Orbit Development, or CLD program. And it's about $400 million of funding through between 2 and 4 Space Act agreements to fund these studies of these space stations. So it's just the last one. And there have been 2 really big names that have been before that, Axiom and Nanoracks Lockheed Martin. So, watch this space. But in terms of what it's there for, Blue Origin say that it's open to anyone, customer or nation. It's providing an address on orbit and catalysing the growth of a vibrant space ecosystem. Now, if I'm going to translate that for anybody, I would say, look, they're looking for people to get up there, do new tech, find out how to build things in space, for example, do science experiments, chemistry, biology experiments, looking at humans and how they go in space, and of course, that big one, tourism.
I love checking in with you now and then, Claire, because there's just so much happening in this industry. What has NASA's Juno mission found out about Jupiter's atmosphere and its great red spot?
Oh, this is a great story. So for me, this is just one of those things where science just keeps giving. Juno is this cute little spacecraft. It actually launched way back in August in 2011. It spent 5 years just getting to Jupiter. And then in the last 5 years, it's been dipping in and out of Jupiter's atmosphere every 53 days. I personally would find that very tiring. So its aims are to basically look at Jupiter's atmosphere. We can't see below these beautiful clouds. Of course, we've got these white and brown streaks, and of course this iconic red spot. And we can see those things, but they're largely a mystery. We also don't really know how it formed, and until we can sort of peek below those clouds, so to speak, we can't really test our theories of planetary formation. We want to know what's there, what are the clouds made of, what's underneath Jupiter's clouds. And so that's what Juno's been doing, is dipping in and out. This great red spot is iconic. and it's possibly been seen since the 1600s, but scientists aren't even sure about that. And it's been shrinking over the past few years with a series of flaking events. So little pieces of the red spot have been coming off. And Juno has been looking underneath the atmosphere in microwave light, which goes through these clouds and actually gets a look underneath. And then it went in 2019, it flew above the red spot. And what's really cool is that NASA has this thing called Deep Space Network. And it's a series of 3 huge radio antennas on Earth. There's one in California, one in Spain, and one in Canberra. And they watched Juno. Yeah. And so when Juno was flying above the red spot, they were detecting changes in velocity of Juno due to the gravity of the Great Red Spot, about 0.1 millimeters per second changes in velocity. So super, super, super like tiny changes that we're detecting. But essentially, it looks like the red spot goes a lot deeper than we thought, between 300 and 500 kilometres deep into the atmosphere, and it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. And some other news is, well, we're going back to the drawing board. We don't really, we see these clouds, we've looked underneath them, and there seems to be this abyss, the clouds end, and suddenly there's this abyss. And we're like, wow, we didn't expect that. There must be some sort of ammonia mixing. What's going on? So the ramifications are it's back to the drawing board.
Wow. Tell us about another of NASA's space probes too, Lucy. It's come across some technical issues, I understand.
Yeah, so Lucy, a great name for this spacecraft. It's actually named after that famous fossilised skeleton you might remember of a human ancestor called Lucy, which helped us understand our own evolution as humans. And its job is actually to go and to look at asteroids, primarily the Trojan asteroids, and they're a group of asteroids. One sits before Jupiter in its orbit and one sits afterwards, and they go around the sun with Jupiter, sort of buddies, and they sit there in this stable place because that's kind of gravitationally where the sun and Jupiter balance out, and so they're kind of safe, these asteroids. And Lucy's going to have a look at these asteroids, and these asteroids represent some of the most primordial material, the rubble left over from the construction site of the solar system. But what's happened, of course, no mission is without drama. Lucy got up there, she left, and what actually happened was went out to, if you ever have a look at Lucy, quite cute, got this little silver beak in the middle and 2 enormous owl eyes, which are these solar arrays. Now, one of those actually didn't unfurl properly, and they've done a bunch of tests, and it's between 75 to 95% not opened. It's opened, and they're not sure what they're going to do about it yet. They could potentially leave it like that, or they might have a chance to redeploy that solar array to see if it'll open again.
Fascinating stuff. I'm sure they'll get it fixed if that's what they need to do. Claire
so.
Kenyon, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Yvonne.